Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap and VA Housing Education. We are coming at you live. This is actually our last live, right, David, for the
Yep.
for the year? Yeah, so look, it's the last live of the year. We wanted to reach out to you, wish everybody a happy holiday season, and just kind of talk through a little bit about kind of where we've been, where we're at, where we're going in 2026, and also kind of just a reminder, a cognizant reminder that there's some of us out there that might need a phone call, might need just a check in, like, I hope you're doing well. So if there's anybody out there in your kind of circle that needs that hello, reach out to them now. This is a very, very important time of year for a lot of folks, and hearing that means a lot, I think. So, hey, David, thanks for jumping on. I love doing these with you. So thank you for inviting me to do this, and we can make this happen. So I'm going to kick it over to you to talk about some of the things, that have happened. Well, I'll let you open it up, and then we'll go from there and talk about some of the back and forths. How about that?
That sounds good to me. And yeah, thanks again for having me on the show throughout the year. I think definitely we've been able to help a lot of people both understand VA home loans, and then a lot of folks from my end understand about VA disability, right? And that's the point of
Right.
these collaborations, is to really spread that information. And just like when I was doing research for myself, that's how I came across you and Clay, because it's just valuable information you just don't know every single day. And I
Right.
would say that one thing that I'd like to touch on this year, which I'm still blown away, and I know you did a bunch of videos on that VASP program that went away. And this kind of talks about like the stressors that people have because the VA had a foreclosure program. They got rid of it. They put a new one in. It's been 6 months and still nothing has happened to help veterans. And, I talk to veterans, I would say, Jason, at least once a day, where they're like, hey, I'm in foreclosure. This is what happened. And it's mind blowing. And some of it,
Right.
Jason, it's not even that the veteran missed the payment initially. It's because their VA disability property tax breaks got put back in place and they couldn't make the payment, even though it wasn't their fault to begin with.
Right.
And I did a video on that recently talking about like Cook County in Illinois, where I'm at, or by me, where like they assessed some places 175%, where veterans were exempt from paying property taxes to now paying property taxes. And so, I love your insight on that, but I thought it was crazy because one, it was signed into law already, so we don't have it. And then two, people going to foreclosure, even on things that servicers make mistakes on or the county makes mistakes on. Because I did go to my county assessor the other day, so
Right.
yesterday, and I asked them, and they're like, hey, you need to double check, because if that tax bill is issued even by error, you have to pay it 100%.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. And so for those of you out there, when you get your tax bill, even if you have your taxes and insurance impounded into so they're part of your mortgage payment, and you get that tax bill, and maybe it even says this isn't a bill, right? Because it's impound. Look at it. Really look at it, because
Oh, I think Jason got cut there for a second, so I will jump in. He will probably jump on in a second. Not sure if he got his internet wasn't working too well on that piece, but what he was saying, though, I got it, was that when you're looking, like every year, they're gonna send your tax bill. Oh, here we go. He's back in. All right, Jason, welcome back. Today's been one of those, but I was just explaining to folks that basically, like, even though you escrow, you still get a tax bill every year, right? And when you get that tax bill, you need to double check it to see if you are being assessed taxes or not. And another big important thing to understand is for surviving spouses, even if your spouse is 100% permanent in total, normally you have to refile every single year in order to keep that exemption. And the reason why they do that, I learned recently, is that if a surviving spouse remarries, they lose their benefits for the tax exemption.
Wow. Yeah. And so, sorry, I felt, and, welcome to, I can't wait for this year to be over. Right. So, yeah, to the point I don't know if you covered it, is check your tax bill, because if your assessed value is wrong, you
Oh
need to
yeah.
go contest that with your county tax assessor's office. It's not a perfect science. They're just throwing out guesses on how much your property is worth, and that could even be land. Okay, so
Yep.
if you own a piece of land, 5 acres or something, or more, whatever you own, they could be taxing you at a much higher rate than what the actual value is. So just be cognizant of that, as well. It's just important, because not everybody gets this full tax exemption. There's a lot of us that are paying taxes on our properties because you don't have 100%, or your state doesn't offer full tax exemption based on whatever percentage you're at. So make sure that you're being assessed the right value. A lot of times what happens is you have to, there's a little window of opportunity, and typically it's different for every state and county even. But usually it's at the very beginning of the year. So, January 1, you need to get in there and start having that conversation before they send out their tax assessments and tax bills and so forth. Sorry about that. Here we are. So, a good point that you brought up, and this is another thing that we need to kind of, I guess, keep an eye on. The replacement legislation that went through and became law. I forgot what it's even called now, but the replacement of VASP.
Yep.
For the foreclosure stuff. So even though it became law, the VA still has to figure it out. They still have to set up kind of all of the parameters, how they're going to deal with it, train people on it. How do they function it? What do they have to do? What's their role in the whole process, and get it fully implemented and running. And my question to you, David, is, because this is your world, the mortgage world, and you understand it from a couple different perspectives, which is why it's great having you on. You understand it from the boots on the ground loan officer kind of mentality, but then you also understand it from the bigger picture, corporate running a mortgage, industry type of a perspective. So my question to you is, how long is too long to go from law to implementation? I get it. The VA's huge, the nation's big, all of that stuff. But with it's actually less requirements actually for the VA
Right.
because they're removing VASP. So that was the
Right.
heading point. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So initially, when they signed into law, I thought there was a provision in there that has to be implemented within 6 months. And we're approaching that in like 8 days as of right
Mhm.
now, and not even a single mention of it. I reached out to the VA also just because we do a lot of stuff with them, and they don't even have a clue. Like the guys are like, well, nothing's even been pushed out or even discussed at their level. I think that 6 months is too long because this program was there to help veterans. And now you think about it, like people, since the law has passed, veterans have lost their homes, right?
Mhm.
Into foreclosure. Like it's over with, right? Like they don't
Right.
have it anymore. So how do you then try to take that back? So I don't remember how long it took them to implement the VASP program, which I think was a lot more complicated program than
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
That I don't remember. I should actually look that up to see like when when the bill was passed and how long it took them to implement it.
Seemed
Uh,
like it was pretty quick.
yeah, that's what I feel like. It was announced and then it was like implemented. So
Figure out what they were going to do,
yeah,
so, and so uh, again, I guess for everybody out there that's watching, this is why it's important. And here's the thing. I get it. A very small portion of us are going to end up in foreclosure or need that type of assistance.
like
However,
50,000 right now.
right, it's to 50,000. So it's a big number. It's a big
Right.
number, but compared to 18 million or 17
Right.
million veterans, that's a very small number. So the point though is that even if you are not in need of it today, heaven forbid, right, that you ever need it in the future, but it's good to know that it's there just in case. But also, almost more importantly, is so we can be that resource for somebody else, right? A friend, a brother, a cousin, a grandfather, whoever, right? Somebody you ran into at Starbucks and you're talking to them about whatever, and they're like, yeah, having some troubles, whatever. This is just one of those things. It's just another piece of knowledge that we can share, right? And it kind of goes, David, to everything that I always say, and I've been saying this for so long. If we don't take care of each other, something went wrong. And I truly believe it. I was saying this just so people know, I'm a former accredited veteran service officer, ran a team of accredited reps, did stuff from the state down. And I've been saying this for a decade before I did my first video on YouTube. So it's not like this is some new thought that I had. I truly have been preaching this for a very long time. So with that being said, if you're not subscribed to David's channel, you should absolutely do that, because we're going to keep following up on this type of stuff, and we'll know when there's going to be an implementation date. We're going to know, the ins and outs of it. And this is where we're going to get it from, right? We're going to get it from people like us. Quite frankly, the VA is not going to come knocking on our door saying, hey, we figured it all out. Here you go. Right.
Right.
Sadly, that doesn't happen. Right. So
Right.
we have to get it from each other. All right. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on the foreclosure stuff before we kind of shift gears a little bit?
That's good. And the funny thing for everyone that's listening out there, like I also had I asked you, Jason. I remember I was like, where did you come up with the tagline? And you're like, you know what? I was actually doing it way back before when we met up not that long ago. So
yeah.
No, that's pretty good. I think that's good on the foreclosure part. What's been going on with VA disability changes, and if you're seeing things coming up until next year?
Right. The biggest thing, and we've been talking about it for a long time, and even with you on the channel, is, the rating schedule changes, and, it's a roller coaster, right? So the reality is that these things are going to happen. They were supposed to happen. And this isn't just us saying it's going to happen. This is the information that's pushed out through the federal government, right? Through the VA, through the Federal Register. They have dates put in place. Now they're placeholder dates, but it gives us an indication on when they're going to implement things. They've kicked the can down the road several times. Right now, the last rating schedule that was changed negatively was the digestive system, and that was about a year and a half ago. Is when that one went into effect. Now we got 4 other rating schedule changes that, again, were supposed to really happen in 2025. But as you can imagine, imagine running the VA just for a second. I mean, it would be a nightmare. So not only are you running this gigantic organization, you're getting all of these competing priorities, right? From all over. The veterans want this. The administration wants this. Congress wants this. This is what needs to happen internally. And so you're fighting all of these different competing priorities. And quite frankly, you can only take on so much. So I believe that the VA just went, look, we gotta focus in, and we're going to work on these 4 or 5 priorities, and everything else can just sit. And I believe that's what happened. So now that the dust is starting to clear a little bit, I would imagine that these changes will go into effect this coming year, 2026, which is the rating schedule changes for neurological, respiratory, auditory, and mental health. Those 4 rating schedule changes. Now, for the most part, it's negative. There are a couple pieces in there that are good, but as a whole, it's probably like, I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule, right? It applies so often. Everything, it's like 80% this and 20% that. So here we are, and we're looking at probably an 80% bad, 20% good is what's going to happen out of these rating schedule changes.
But they mix it all together. So it
yeah. So then they could talk about the good and just kind of skim over. So they'll talk about the 20%, right? And then just kind of move on. So I think that's one of the things that's out there that we need to kind of keep an eye on. The other thing, though, before we jump into what you can do today for that, is there has been so much noise, David, around VA benefits, which these are legally lawful benefits that were created by Congress for service members that served honorably and got out of the military and went on their happy way. And there's this whole menu of benefits out there. And veterans are utilizing the benefits that they earned legally. Granted, I get it. There's fraud out there, just like everywhere else. You know what? And shame on them. And I hope they get caught and I hope they go to jail. Okay. But the vast majority, and this isn't just me, this is actually the VA OIG. It's a very small, minute percentage, less than like a 0.5% type of percentage. I mean, it's very tiny. So with that being said, we are being, ripped apart, trying to be divided, trying to, and it's a horrific thing. And I'm just going to rattle off a couple of things and I want to get your thoughts on this. So I have just this weird, bad feeling about it all. So we have all of this stuff that we normally see, like the Congressional Budget Office saying, hey, if you cut these benefits, you'll save this much money. Okay, that's kind of the normal stuff. You'll get a little bit of the publicity in some publications like the Washington Post. Usually that happens at least once a year. This time it was a little overboard. There was, it was a series of attacks, we'll call it. Then we had retired Lieutenant Colonel Gade, who testified at the Senate hearing about how veterans benefits are really doing more harm than good for veterans, which is just mind-blowing to me. His rationale is way off base, and he comes from this position of really like he's up on some sort of a pedestal looking down at everybody and just shaming everybody for accessing the benefits that are legally there for them, which is I want to rip my hair out. It's like, how can you say this? I mean, look, I pressed the gas and went through the yellow light. There's nothing illegal about that. Right. So, you can't even, and it's not even that bad. I mean, you're going through green lights. There's no, so we have that going on. We have Medal of Honor recipients that are talking about reforms. We have congressional members that are questioning VA disability compensation. And so all of these things are adding up. I'm going to give this last piece, then I want your thoughts. Then we have this piece of legislation, you know which one I'm talking about, that now calls for, and this just irritates me, because it's really a good piece of legislation, right? So now there's a piece of legislation out there that calls for a $10,000 increase per year for the most disabled of us all, right? So the catastrophically injured, and also some 1% increases over the next 5 years for surviving spouses. Great piece of legislation. And you know what? Great. That type of stuff should happen. Then the question comes, well, where does the funding come from to pay for this legislation? And for everybody out there, well, it should come from the federal government. I mean, this is for catastrophically injured veterans, right? This is for disabled veterans. This is for people that served our country and gave a lot, right? So who should pay for it? Okay, well, so, let's track it back and let's be honest. Probably taxpayers, right? Because that's where it comes from. So we do what we do so we could have the country we have. So then the taxes come in, and then, it's follow the ball. So surely it shouldn't be paid for by disabled veterans, because that would be weird, right? Wouldn't that be like the opposite of what this should be? Correct. I would think. But that's what they're saying, is they are saying, let's have disabled veterans pay for this bill, which blows my mind. So so now that I've painted that picture, right? I feel specifically, David, and then I want your thoughts on that bill, with all of the high just disregard for veterans that had happened, with all of this rhetoric, all of that leading up to this bill. And now we have this bill that, in my opinion, is pitting veteran against veteran, which which how do you conquer, right? Divide and conquer. It's easier to split up and then just crush, split up, crush, right? I mean, somebody's reading the Art of War somewhere, while they're doing legislation. So my question to you, David, is what are your thoughts specifically on that bill?
Yep.
Dive into it a little bit deeper on how it's going to be funded if it goes through the way that it's written. Okay. And how do you feel about all of this rhetoric leading up to this? And I feel like it's kind of hit this peak with this bill where now it's this divide even more. So I'd love to get your thoughts on all that. I know it's a boatload.
It's a lot.
Sometimes it's hard for me to stop talking.
Yeah, Jason, you're good at finessing all this stuff.
Right.
I'll tell you one thing. I think that a lot of the VA disability benefits and all of that, I think it's just a product of where we're at in society of like information, right? And a lot of people are talking about VA disability benefits more than they ever have, right? If you think about 20 years ago when the internet barely even existed, if it existed at that point, it was when I talked to veterans that, served back in Vietnam, they're like, I really didn't know I can file for VA disability, right? So we've had that awakening of VSOs and VFWs and channels like this where people are like, wait a second, I have access to all these benefits. And I think that a lot of these lawmakers are like, oh man, like we didn't realize that all these millions of veterans would be applying for VA benefits and then getting them. And now all of a sudden they're in this position of like, how do we cut these benefits back, which I think is somewhat difficult. But also, if you look at the VA's website, they have a statistical model that, right now there's like 18 million veterans, but that's going to shrink drastically over like the next 20 years, like significant reduction in the amount of veterans that are that currently are out there, right? I think it goes from like 18 million to maybe 8 million. Like, so that's a huge reduction in that piece on that.
Right.
So I just think just that whole awareness piece, and I think that's just kind of what's driving them crazy to figure out where they can save money. Now, to talk about this bill that they're talking about, I think is kind of crazy what they're doing with the bill where the top disabled veterans getting the $10,000. The way it's being funded is through the VA home loan. Okay. And the way that they're doing that is they're saying that any veteran that has a VA disability rating of 70% or less using the VA loan for the second time will have to now pay the VA funding fee. Okay. I know that
so really quick, David, really quick. So really it's 10% to 70% because everybody else is already paying. Yep. So it's really the 10 to 70. So to frame that up, disabled veterans.
Right. That's so the way it works today is that if you have a 10% rating or greater, you don't pay the VA funding fee at all, right? You refinance, you purchase a house, you do a cash out, you do a VA assumption, construction loan, whatever that VA allows, you don't have to pay that VA funding fee. This new concept, essentially what would happen is that the first time you use the VA loan and let's say you have a 10% disability rating or 10 to 70, you don't pay the VA funding fee per the standard norm. But the second time you use it, which would also include interest rate reduction refinance loans, cash out refinances, purchasing a new property, then you would go back to the old rules that if you don't put a down payment, you have to pay a higher VA funding fee. And that'd be the folks between 10 and 70% rated for that, which again, I think that's crazy. And that's what they're using basically to pay for this. And I know we've talked about it before, but just kind of keep in mind, like one of those benefits is that it's a main benefit for veterans to use the VA loan that they don't have to pay the VA funding fee if they have a 10% or greater rating. And what I do want to remind folks of, because I do get this question a lot, especially from veterans that never filed. They're like, yeah, I was thinking about filing, but, I got life, family, and things like that. Just remember, a 10% rating is all you need, and that could be hearing loss. I mean, it could be a lot of things could be 10%. Jason, you would know more of like some of the common things that veterans have, but I know that I believe tinnitus is the #1 VA disability rating given. Is that correct?
Yeah, that and mental health are like the top two, and kind of they do this, right?
Okay.
And on that note, right, the rating for tinnitus is proposed to go away, which means that now you would be safe if you already have it, but anybody
Oh,
new filing for tinnitus would not be able to on a standalone condition. They're going to remove the code and everything.
yeah. Oh, this is the bill. Someone dropped it. Yeah. So you dropped it in here. Yep. So the HR 6047. So yeah, look it up because like there's definitely some pieces to that. And so with some of these changes that are happening, let me ask you, is is it better to wait and file for your rating, or is it better
Mhm.
to try to lock it in now?
Right. You know what? I love how you use the words lock it in. You sound like a lender. So here's my opinion on it. The longer you wait, the more likely you're losing money, right?
Yep.
So you would let's just take somebody who has no rating at all, right? I've been thinking about filing a claim. I didn't think I deserved it. You know, that whole song and dance. And the reality is, yes, you do. If you served and you have a condition that manifested during service is a result of your service or made worse by your time in service, right? There's three kind of avenues there. If you meet that, you should absolutely file. Now, here's my key kind of point here, David, is file an intent to file.
Yep.
That is a placeholder. It gives you 12 months to develop your claim. In other words, get all the evidence you need. Do not rush this. I have seen too many times where veterans just get excited, right? I mean, it's like we all do. Once you know that you want to do something, you start doing it. You want to get it done, and don't shortchange it. Don't cut corners. Make sure you fully develop that claim. Get all the evidence that you need in, and then be able to file that claim appropriately. You got 12 months to do it. You're not going to lose a nickel. You have that placeholder for your effective date. Now, here's the key. Once you do that and you get awarded your claim, now I'm going to also throw this out there. Most of the people you see on YouTube that talk about claim stuff, usually they're just talking about, hey, this is what it takes to get your service connected, right? You're going to get service connected. These are the things you need to do. Service connection, service connection, service connect. Cool. Yes, we get it. Service connection. That's a good thing. You must have that. But there's actually two other things that you should focus on in your development of your claim, in my opinion. And again, former accredited veteran service officer, did it for 10 years prior to even doing a video on YouTube. So when I think about a claim, David, I think about accomplishing three things. One, service connection, obviously. So I need that evidence. Number two, I need to supply the correct evidence to get the appropriate rating as it relates to the rating schedule. Okay. Because just because I say I'm diagnosed and I show my diagnosis and I show my service connection doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to look at that and figure out exactly where I fall on the rating schedule. So I would work with my doctor with the rating schedule, get the information from the rating schedule into my doctor's notes, or have them complete a DBQ, disability benefits questionnaire. That's what that form is actually for. And really make sure that I'm hammering home the severity level again as it relates to the rating schedule. Now, if I meet the criteria for a 30% rating for a condition and not the 50%, that's fine. At least I know that I meet the criteria for the 30. So let me make sure that I document that exact criteria, because the VA is looking for that. If they don't see it, then they're going to drop you down to the lower one. Now, you can roll the dice and hope that you can, get it done in the CMP exam, but that's not the preferred method, right? The CMP exam should just tighten the screws on what you've already submitted. Don't rely on it to build your case, if that makes sense. So number one was service connection. Number two was the appropriate rating. Now, the third thing that you should absolutely be working on when you submit your claim, and this is, again, you don't hear this, at least I don't see it to the full extent of this is what you need to focus on up front, is proving that your condition is static if it is. Okay. So if your condition is a condition that is like, I've been going to the doctor for the past 7 years for this condition, it has not gotten any better. We'll just use migraines. So I've had migraines for been rated, or not even rated because you're filing your claim. So, but I've been treated for migraines for the past 7 years, and it's been exactly the same bad the whole time. I want to make sure that I document the severity and that it's static for that length of time, more than 5 years. Why? Because the VA is looking to see if your condition is static or not. Now, if you just provide my last month's medical records and there's no mention of I've been being seen for 7 years, right? Then the VA is like, okay, cool, you got migraines, cool, you got diagnosed, cool, we got your severity, but we're going to put you on a plan and we're going to see you back here in the next 2 to 5 years for a re-examination, because we don't have enough evidence to say that your condition is static. So now you have a re-examination. If you have a re-examination, you have a potential for a decrease. So it's smarter if your condition is in fact static and your doctor says that it is, you want to put that in writing from your doctor. You want your doctor to do it. You want medical evidence that supports that your condition is in fact static. Again, you submit a claim that's accomplishing those 3 things, David, right? Service connection, check. Severity, get the appropriate rating, check. Oh, it's static, check. No future examination. This is a smart claim. This is setting yourself up for success. You're not having to file an HLR. You're not having to file supplemental claims. You're not pushing it to the board, spinning your wheels, having all of that headache. So it's just so important. Now, to just one more thing on your, I know this is a long answer. So should people file their claim now? Yes. And in the event that the rating schedules change and open up the door to maybe a potentially higher rating, well, now you're ready to do that. You file for an increase based on the current rating schedule, whatever that is. But at least you have a rating today. That is the most important thing, is get into the system, get your rating done today. Now I'm going to flip the script for you, David.
Uh-oh. Can I add to it?
Go for it. Go.
Yeah, let me add to what you said. So when I talk to a lot of folks that are talk to a lot of folks that are transitioning out of the service. So I work, a ton of people reach out like, hey, I'm getting out of the military. I want to buy a house. And then I ask them like, hey, so you're filing your BBD claim? And like, yeah, I have. And I'm like, all right, have you reviewed the CMP exam? And they're like, or the DBQs. And they're like, what's a DBQ? And I'm like, so you didn't do any research. And then and to your point, and why I when you said that, I was like, man, like, because you don't, the difference between mild and moderate, do you know the difference between mild and moderate back pain? That can be a difference between a 30 and 50% pain. So when you review your documents, you're able to tell that. And it's just the smallest, like, 3 out of 3 days out of the month versus 5 days out of a month of having migraines are 2 different ratings potentially, right? And that's why it's so important. It's just like you're doing research, just like you research a home loan, just like you research buying a car, right? You're researching what it is that you're getting into, right? You're gathering that intelligence to be like, what questions are they going to ask me? And the other bigger part, I think, especially if you've done a CMP exam before, is the lack of questions they ask you.
Yes.
Right? That's probably the biggest, because like you go in for eight things and they spend 15 minutes with you on all 8. You're just like, are you kidding me? Like, that's what happened. Like, I don't know if you recommend bringing a DBQ in with, or like if one that you've like already went over, just to be like, hey, I just want to make sure we cover everything, because I may have a memory problem.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. And I have my shorter answer.
Uh-oh.
So I know. So yes. So the tip for a good CMP exam experience, right, for a veteran, is one, make sure that you actually put in the work up front when you filed your claim and you did everything appropriately and you took the time to develop that claim. Why? Because it helps your mind understand exactly what you're putting together. And when you know what you put together and you show up to the exam, right? You've looked at the schedule of ratings. You've had conversations with the doctor. You know where you sit in that world. So you're already 10 steps ahead of everybody else. Then, yes, take notes, right? The doctor might not take them from you, but you can take notes. And look, it might feel weird. And that's what I always kind of think about and hear is, well, I feel kind of, it feels weird to walk in with, a bunch of notes, to walk in there. Just go in there with them and just say, hey, I hope you don't mind. I brought some notes because this is really important to me. I don't want to miss anything. And they're like, oh yeah, sure, no problem, right? And then you can just really make sure that you're hammering home on all of the information that they need.
100%. No,
Man,
that's
that was
awesome.
cool.
Yeah, because you definitely don't want to go in blind.
No, not at all.
No.
So another thing to kind of think about, I think here is when it comes to really structuring your claim, right? It's nice to have a second set of eyes. Okay. It's nice to have a sounding board. It's nice to make sure that you're not missing anything. A lot of people aren't even aware that you can, two things. One, that intent to file. Okay. Very important. And I find that a lot of people get, I don't know, hesitant. Okay, yeah, sure, I'll file it. It sounds good. But God, I don't really know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to hold off on that until I'm ready to file it. No, wrong answer. File it right away. Why? Because it's really nothing. It's a super easy form. It's essentially your information, and it does not ask you for specifics. It is not asking you for what you're going to file for. Okay, what in the sense of what conditions. What it does ask you is what type of claim are you going to be filing? There's two choices: compensation or pension. Okay. Compensation is your disability compensation, your bad knee, back, I got migraine, sleep apnea, whatever. So typically that's going to be the one that you're going to be filing for. And that's the one that most of us always talk about. So you just check the box that says compensation. You can also file an intent to file for dependency indemnity compensation. Now, the pension side, a lot of people don't know, pension is it's the stupidest name for this benefit, but it's called VA pension. It sounds like it's a retirement for VA workers. Right. It is not. It is a low and no income safety net program for veterans and surviving spouses. So if you are low or no income, you could potentially get pension from the VA. Basically, it just brings you up to the poverty level. If they determine that your maximum, just to give a quick example, if the VA determines that the maximum allowable pension rate for you and your circumstances is whatever, $30,000 a year, and you're getting your total income is from SSDI, for example, and that is $15,000 a year, what they'll do, the VA, is they'll pay you the difference, $15,000 a year. So $15,000 from SSDI, $15,000 from VA pension creates that maximum pension rate of $30,000 combined. You get the 30. So it's broken down on a monthly payments, of course. So it's a safety net program out there for folks. And so you can also file your intent to file for that, and you can check pension. So the bottom line is intent to file, super easy, very minimal information. Just the only thing you have to tell them is if it's a compensation or pension claim. The other kind of important thing, I think, is having that second set of eyes, right? To make sure that you're signing what you need to sign, that you're gathering what you need to gather, and really opening up your mindset to the potential direct service connections, the potential increases that you might have, secondary conditions, all of that type of stuff. Like always, I always suggest try to find a free accredited resource out there to help you through it. There's some really great ones out there, but then, I mean, it's a big country and sometimes it's hard to find good people. If you cannot find anybody, we're happy to help you. Evidence-based VA claims. Information's in all the different videos. Here's the thing on this, and I just want to throw this out there to everybody. We created evidence-based VA claims because we didn't want people to either A, just not file a claim, or B, go to some place that's going to charge them 5 times the amount of their increase. It's just insane. So Ideally, we want you to go work with a free accredited resource. Even our website says, why should you use evidence-based VA claims? You shouldn't. You shouldn't. Please don't. Go find a free resource. It's just that we're not naive. We know that not everybody has the same quality access. So anyway, David, when it comes to the housing market, okay, we're getting ready to turn the page here, move into next year. We have a lot of people that, and I've seen it in the comments, that didn't even know that they could utilize their VA home loan more than once.
Yep.
Let alone, here's a big one, let alone use it more than once, but actually have more than one. Have multiple VA home loans out there on different properties. It blows my mind because it doesn't even sound possible. And I go back just in my lifetime back to first understanding the VA home loan and putting myself back in those shoes and hearing myself say this today. The me then, mind blown, just like, wow, I had no clue, right? Pretty much thought it was a one-shot deal. So please explain to people out there some of the advantages, how you could utilize it more than once, that type of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And that's another great thing about doing videos like this and like on the channel VA Housing Education is that we cover every aspect of a VA home loan. So if you have a thought of like, hey, how do I get into home ownership, right? Am I eligible? Because there's veterans out there that are not eligible. As crazy as that sounds, they're not eligible for the VA home loan. So I'll kind of give you a big overall picture of the benefit from a high level. So like Jason mentioned, that your benefit is a lifetime benefit. We've helped people as young as 18 and as old as 87, currently the highest age, using the VA loan for the first time and becoming a homeowner for the first time. So, which is crazy. And that's thanks to the channels like this, where they're like, oh, wait a second. I thought my VA loan expired because there was a time that it did expire. Right.
Wow.
So the problem is that the information gets passed on from battle buddy to battle buddy.
Right.
And then like I'm over here trying to explain something to people and they're like, well, that's not how it works. Like I know this. And I've been in the business for 30 years or 20 years. That's not allowed. And I'm like, no, things have changed or you just have wrong information. So one, lifetime benefit that you can use it. The only way that your spouse can use the VA loan is if you pass away from a service-connected disability. And that's why it's important. And Jason, I see a lot more veterans these days are going back, even though they're 100% permanent in total, to get an additional condition added like heart disease or TBIs, just because like that can manifest to other things. And if you pass away from that, then at least your spouse will get your indemnity compensation.
Right.
So not only do they get a monthly stipend, they also will they also get the VA home loan, which is a big benefit. If you want your kids to get a VA home loan, technically, if you buy the house, and I'm not an attorney, put it in a trust and then have them move in there and give it to them, you can do the same thing, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of different ways you can use that. And with that second part you mentioned about having multiple VA home loans. So next year, I did a video talking about the VA loan increases for next year. And why I say increases is one, there's two sets of VA rules. The first one is that if you don't have an outstanding VA loan right now, right, or at the time of buying a new one, like you're selling your current place, but you're going to sell it and buy a new one, technically there's no limit. Like you want to buy a $5 million juicy house, as Clay says it, you can do that with no money down as long as you have the finances to pay for it. That includes single family, multifamily properties, new construction. You could build a barnomium. You could buy a farm if you want to with the VA loan. There's so many things that you can do with it. And then there's a second set of rules that if you have a VA loan, what it maxes out at. So in 2026, it's $832,750. There's a lot of numbers to remember. So that's gonna be the new limit. So if you bought a place for $432,750, you still have $400,000 to buy another house with no money down. I mean, think how crazy of a benefit that is, where Everyone else out there has to put 5% down, 10% down. And if you look at like conventional loans, because veterans get steered away from their benefits at times, not in a like, oh, it makes sense to do something else, but in a like, hey, we just don't want to deal with the VA. Why don't we just put them in a conventional loan? Even if you do 5% down with a conventional loan, it's still cheaper to use a VA loan with no money down because of private mortgage insurance and higher rates on conventional loans. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And somebody asked a question. I'm just kind of like swinging over here. I want to highlight this question because it's kind of funny. David, do you offer better rates than Veterans United? I have a 270 mortgage in Alabama through Veterans United. I'm paying like $1,800 a month at like 5.85 or something like that currently. So I'll tell you this. So I have a lot of folks that reach out to me, and obviously big companies spend a lot of marketing dollars. And Jason, when someone spends a lot of marketing dollars, how do they recoup that money?
Right.
By
You know what I like to think of? Casinos.
Casinos, yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of so I'll tell you that we're very competitive. And like I just talked to somebody yesterday because he was like, hey, I'm already pre-approved with the company, might have been mentioned. And I'm like, have him send you a loan estimate. So just do me a favor. Because he's like, I don't want to work with you, but I reached out to you. I'm like, just send the estimate. Please do that me a favor. I'm like, and like this is what they're gonna do when you get it. And he's like, all right, fine, whatever. And so the next day he texts me. He's like, yeah, you were right. How can we work together? Because like you saved like $8,000. And so anyways, so it's just like you save a ton of money because we don't have those marketing costs associated with it. So always happy, and I can help you across the country. You can schedule a call with me down below or go to my channel. All my videos have a link to schedule a call with me, and happy at least to go through some options. Because Jason, not everyone's ready, right? And I want you to call 6 months or a year out because at least then you know where you stand. It's just like with VA disability. It's that if you don't prepare for it, like, yeah, file your intent and then prepare for it, right? Gather all the evidence, put everything together. It's the same thing with the VA home loan. It's you got to put the time in, which kind of leads me into the next part of 2026 is that I would say, Jason, a lot of people are talking, not complaining, talking about like home values are too high, prices are too expensive. But what I'll tell you is that most people that say that can become homeowners, it's the issue is their spending habits. They spend too much money on things that they don't need to spend money on. And that's where the challenge comes in. Because if you think about it, for every $600 a month you spend, roughly equates to $100,000 in purchasing power. So that car that you have, that's $1,000 is like $175,000 mortgage that you can have.
Right.
And the push to file for disability by understanding what the county allows for property tax breaks is that you're like, oh, well, if I cut back, sell my car, and just buy a car cash for $8,000, now I don't have a car payment. I filed for my disability. I work with someone that could help me get through that, maybe get an increase or rating or whatever you need to do with it. Then you understand like, oh no, I can get to 100, which a lot of people have recently for some reason. They've gotten to it. Now they're like, hey, I could actually afford being a homeowner now, right? And you clean up their finances, they get back pay, they clear out their debt, and they got a fresh start. And you don't necessarily need to have disability to do that. You just got to buckle down and focus on what's important to you, because what's important to me, what's important to you, Jason, and for you, individual viewer, it's all going to be different. We all have different priorities, right? Some of us want to be in one place without moving, right? We don't want to listen to a landlord telling us what we can and can't do, right? It's a lot of power in taking control of your financial future.
Right. And the other kind of point here is that VA home loans are not just for single family residents.
Right.
Okay. You could purchase a 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit property. You could purchase a condo, townhome if they're approved by VA.
Which, by the way, we do those VA condo approvals. There's no additional cost to you, which other companies charge you like $1,600 to do that. And we do them all the time. So you can literally buy any single condo you want. And for the older veterans, you can use a VA loan with a condo for VA condo approval in 55 plus communities. Just important to know.
Oh, nice. Yeah. See, so look, and here's the thing. It's kind of like there's there's all kinds of different groups, but we have the younger veteran who's getting into their first home. right? Then you have maybe an older veteran who wants to downsize. The kids moved out, everybody's out of the house. It's you and your spouse, and you have 5 bedrooms and, all this stuff. Maybe you want to downsize, right? So now you could go ahead and move into a smaller home or a condo or, 55-year and up community type of thing. Then also, guess what? Your VA home loan on your other home is assumable. And if you want to let a child or other family member assume that loan and carry that one on because they want to move into your house, well, there you go. So there's a lot of different options when it comes to it. One of the things I wanted to talk about real quick is you mentioned people getting rated to get their conditions recognized by the VA in the event that they were to pass away, so that way their benefit could be carried on by their surviving spouse. So what I want to throw out there to folks is, for anybody out there who has life insurance on themselves, right? It's not cheap. And the older you get, the less cheap it is. It costs a lot of money you try to get a $500,000 policy or $1 million policy when you're in your 60s, 70s, it's ridiculous. However, the point that David made about dependency indemnity compensation, the point here is that if you have a service-connected condition that basically attributes to your death. Okay. Now, the way that this works, dependency indemnity compensation, let me throw out a couple of dollar figures for you guys real quick so you can really understand what this is. I look at dependency indemnity compensation kind of like an insurance policy. Okay. Like an insurance policy that pays out like a monthly annuity. Okay. Yeah. So you don't get this big lump sum. You just kind of get this monthly thing. But it's also impacted by COLA. So it will adjust upward year over year. So just to give you some quick dollar amounts, it ranges anywhere from $1,699 per month all the way up to well over $3,000 per month, depending on different, we'll call it add-ons. Okay. So for example, a child added on is $421 to the $1,699. If you were married for 8 years, and this isn't a DIC video, but just give you kind of an overview. It's an extra $360 if the veteran was rated 100% that whole time. If you need aid in attendance as the surviving spouse, for example, you get another $421. So the numbers add up. And here's the basics of it. And there's more to it. Okay. So again, that's my disclaimer. There's more to it than just this, but this is enough to at least get you aware. There's really 2 main qualifiers. One is the VA looks for cause of death being a service-connected condition. So if the veteran passes away due to a service-connected condition, and there's a nuance here that I'm going to tell you about. So if the veteran passes away due to a service-connected condition, the surviving spouse can apply for and most likely receive dependency indemnity compensation. Now, the nuance is there's 2 spots on a death certificate. There's cause of death and there's contributing cause to death. So this is a very magical form, okay? Here's the example. The VA considers both those the same. So let's just say Vietnam veteran has hypertension. Hypertension is a presumptive condition, by the way. So if you have hypertension and you served in Vietnam or any Agent Orange kind of area, you just show that you have hypertension. You show that you served in an area that's Agent Orange, and they're going to grant you service connection for that hypertension. So now years go by, boom, you die from a heart attack. Well, the death certificate should, and if not, you can get it amended. You should have it say cause of death, heart attack. Contributing cause to death, hypertension. That's what you would need for proof for the VA. So that is an avenue. So for example, you could only have hypertension as your VA disability compensation rating. That waives currently the funding fee for the home. Boom, you pass away from a service connected condition. You get your DIC, the loan passes over to the surviving spouse, can carry that stuff on. So there is so much value. It's unbelievable. I'm going to give you a dollar amount here in a minute. The other way is if you're rated 100%, including TDIU, for 10 years, 10 years and 1 day, you can pass away from anything. It doesn't have to be service connected. You can walk and get hit by a bus. Yeah. Yeah. Because
this is how we're learning. We're learning every day.
Yeah. So the VA basically looks at it as though, look, your household has been reliant on this income at this point for 10 years. So you can die from anything after 10 years of being 100%, including TDIU. There's actually some nuances to that as well. They shorten it up for some things, like, for example, if you were 100% since the release from active duty for at least 5 years immediately before their death. So you got out, boom, like a BDD claim, boom, you're 100%. And then 5 years goes by, you can die from anything from that. And then if you're a former prisoner of war, it's just 100% for 1 year before their death. So they really shorten that one up. So here's an amazing dollar figure, and put this in the mindset of life insurance. Okay. This is how you have to think about this, because look, if I have hypertension and I don't have a VA claim and I'm like, it'd only be 10%. Who even cares? Forget it. Right. I don't want to go through the hassle. Okay. Well, let's talk about this for a second. How much is that hassle really worth? Right. One, it waives your funding fee, which is,
that's a ton of money.
15,000, depending on your amount. I mean, it's thousands of dollars. So if the surviving spouse were to receive $3,000 a month in dependency indemnity compensation, tax-free money for 20 years, it's almost $750,000. So how much is $750,000 life insurance policy for you at age whatever? We'll say 50, 60, right?
It's crazy expensive.
It's going to be very expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive.
So, and especially as we get older, we got more conditions, right? So the more conditions you have, the more that you need to disclose. And if you're not disclosing them, well, then they're not going to give you a high, you're talking $40,000, $30,000 life insurance policies for the ones that say, no questions asked, we will prove you. Those are small ones, right? And this is not accidental death, right? This is legit, so think about that as a way to really cover yourself. I mean, I know that the older we get, the more mortality starts to kind of get in our minds, and we start to think about this future planning, right? In addition, you could pre-register for your burial. You'll go to your state veteran cemetery or VA cemetery, check them out. Go there, check it out. If you haven't, have a conversation with the people that work there, the director, what have you, and ask them. I mean, they got column burials, they got, the regular plots, they got all kinds of things. So all that to say is that you think that veterans don't know a lot about the benefits that we have. Imagine the surviving spouse. Right?
That's 100%. I mean, yeah, they definitely don't know. I know my wife doesn't know. I do this, right? And it's like, they're just like, I don't even know what you do in the military, to be honest. And so, yeah, just to know these, and then that event happens. Like we do, I do a lot of events, like veteran events, right? And we'll have spouses that like, oh, my husband passed away 8 years from a service connection. I don't really have any benefits from that. And I'm like, what do you mean? So we get them connected, and now all of a sudden they get a property tax break for last 5 years to get a refund. They get their indemnity compensation and some back pay. But it's definitely like a lot of people just don't realize it, or they'll try to do things when it's kind of at the finish line where it may be too late. Like especially filing for VA disability, right? We'll have folks that like are on their deathbed are like, hey, I need to file my VA disability. And so you kind of have those things you want to be ahead of. So, but no, I think we talked about a lot of good things, Jason. We'll get things wrapped up. We've been on for a little bit over an hour. I just want to say thank you to everyone that joined us. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to everyone out there. And like Jason mentioned earlier, there's definitely folks out there that may need some help. So reach out to them, say hi, especially during these times. And make sure that you guys subscribe to both of our channels. And Jason, I'll let you close it out with your signature closing.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm going to throw something else out there real quick. There's so many of us, right? So many veterans, so many spouses, dependents, all that, and we're all at different levels and in our lives, and some are more fortunate than others, and it's the way that it is. If you are so inclined, I suggest reaching out to your local VFWs, American Legion, DAVs. I know it's Christmas Eve at this point. So, but in the event that there's veterans in need, typically they're going to reach out to those organizations in your local area, right? Not national. Don't call them. Call your local contact at these different organizations. And maybe they need a bag of groceries, right? That type of stuff. If you want to keep it in the hands of veterans and spouses and dependents, the veteran sphere, if you will, that might be a way. They might pick up the phone, they might not. There might be an email, but like I said, if you're so inclined to help out your brothers and sisters in your local area, that's how you do it. A lot of people don't realize, David, that these organizations at the local level, are actually doing really good things at the local level. I've been involved with a bunch of them, and one of the most common things I see is installing wheelchair ramps for veterans and surviving spouses and so forth. So, like I said, if a veteran's in need, they're going to reach out typically to those organizations. If you're a veteran in need, reach out to one of those organizations. And look, keep an eye on the channels here. We're happy to be here for you guys as well. We really do appreciate all of your support. This has been a fantastic year. We really do appreciate every single one of you. Have a great one. Have a happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. Merry Christmas to those out there that celebrate Christmas, and have a very safe and happy New Year. And then we'll be doing another live in January at some point. We just don't know when. So we'll see you then, and we'll catch up. So with that, thanks so much for watching. We really do truly appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.